What's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's the Nerd.
And he's the Rug Boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. Oh boy, we're here. Back into the MCU first movie of 2025. We are about to review Captain America, Brave New World. Here's your spoilers.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
Oh, I should have played the Captain America spoiler alert. You know what? I'm going to play that one too.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Prepare to be spoiled.
That's appropriate. Captain America, Brave New World. This is the fourth Captain America movie. The 35th MCU movie. 35? It's 35. Wow. And the second of 9 things Marvel Studios is releasing this year across the big screen and the small screen. This movie was originally titled Captain America New World Order and was supposed to come out May 3rd of last year, 2024. So this is where we are. We'll get into why. And apparently this is the start of Phase 5, Anthony. Is that correct? It's the start of
it?
I think it's a...
Oh, wow. Let me check.
Isn't that crazy? It is Phase 5 of the MCU.
You might be right. I'll confirm.
Okay.
Continue.
On the Rotten Tomatoes, fellas, this thing right now is holding a 50% critic tomato meter rating and an 80% audience rating. Very interesting. That critics rating puts it above Eternals and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but below the Marvels and Thor: Love and Thunder. Very interesting.
By the way, you're wrong.
I'm wrong?
This is just a movie in Phase 5. The official start of Phase 5 was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, Quantumania was the start of Phase 5? Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so we're like we're in Phase 5. I'm wrong. What else is...
You're always, as per usual.
What else is surprising? The budget of this movie, reportedly $180 million. But I've seen some reports, because of all the reshoots, it may have been up to like $300 million with marketing and reshoots. But they're reporting $180 million. Here is the big number. What did it open with? Well, last week, if you heard us, it was projected to open about $90 million. We all chose over-unders, and I think we all chose under. And it was under, opening 3-day, $88 million. The 4-day, because it's President's Day, $100 million. Currently, worldwide, though, it is made $192 million. So it's not bad. It does open at number 1. It will have little competition over the next few weeks. And this is Marvel's 35 for 35 with number 1 opening films. Every movie it's opened number 1. This is also the 4th best President's Day launch ever, apparently. The movie, directed by Julius Ona, who has done The Cloverfield Paradox and this movie Loose. So he only has 2 movie credits, right? From a screenplay by Rob Edwards and the writing teams of Malcolm Spellman and Dalen Moosen and Julius Ona and Peter Glanz. Malcolm Spellman also wrote Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I have just interject real quick. For reference, as far as the opening weekend and where that ranks for Marvel.
Yes.
This movie is, let's see here, 12. How many movies have there been?
35.
So this is the 23rd or 22nd best opening?
Oh,
so
out of 35.
Kind of like in the middle-ish.
In the middle, yeah.
Movies that are comparable in terms of opening would be your original Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014, Winter Soldier, Far From Home.
Okay.
Thor: The Dark World, Doctor Strange, Black Widow, like kind of in that range.
That kind of opening. Yeah, that the Rotten Tomato score is the 3rd lowest.
Yes. In
the thing, which is crazy. So I just want to...
No, the Thing is in Fantastic Four,
The Thing, not that thing. I do want to mention this whole, the behind the camera, the director and the writers. Just going to mention, not a lot of credits to their name. And the writers, especially, a lot of television writing in their IMDb credits. So not a lot of experience here behind the screen. In front of the screen, of course, you got Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, Harrison Ford as President Ross, recast from the late William Hurt. You got Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres, Shira Haas as Ruth Bat Seraph, Carl Lumley's in this, Isaiah Bradley, Tim Blake Nelson returning from the Hulk as Samuel Stearns, Giancarlo Esposito, who's also kind of in everything, is the Sidewinder, and a couple other people. Who else do we need to mention? That's really the main cast there. This movie is rated PG-13 and is an hour and 58 minutes. Anthony.
Yes.
What happens in Captain America Brave New World?
Captain America Brave New World continues off of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Endgame, where Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie, is the new Captain America. He is fighting crime or fighting, acting on the behalf of the U.S. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he does have a vibranium-laced wingsuit that helps him out. And as he is helping the president, who is now Thaddeus Ross, played by Harrison Ford because William Hurt died, there is a race towards the new precious minerals or precious metals that are located on Celestial Island, which is a follow-up from the Eternals. And in this race to get the metals and to broker a deal with the world to not cause any war, a assassination attempt on the president uncovers a mystery / investigation into someone behind the strings pulling some things to manipulate the world into a war.
Yeah, pretty good synopsis.
I just came up with that right now, so if that doesn't make any sense.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to ask one thing. Going back to the monies and opening night, I saw this on Thursday. My theater was full.
I had a full theater as well on Thursday night.
Mine was also.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
We went on Saturday at 11 a.m. and it was full.
Saturday, 11 a.m. was full. Yeah, mine was the Thursday at 7.
And you're in the mountains in Tennessee, so I know that's crazy.
People had to travel a long way. Gerald, I'm going to have you start with the opening thoughts first. But
yeah, have him start.
Yes, because you're our guest.
God.
But I want to get a baseline. I need to know if you've watched these 3 properties. You've seen the 2008 Incredible Hulk?
Yes. So that was pre me jumping ship. So
okay.
I haven't seen it in a long time though. So
did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah. So what I was going to tell you is kind of in my general thoughts. What I was going to tell you is that the last Disney Plus or the last Marvel show I watched was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was underwhelmed with it though.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it was, I really liked WandaVision, which was before it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Eternals?
No.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's all I need to know.
Have you seen all the Captain America films?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen all of those.
Okay.
And like I said, so this to me played as kind of an unofficial sequel to The Incredible Hulk, which I think is weird.
Yes.
From 2008. I also was a little annoyed. Now, I liked the movie. I didn't hate it. And that's coming from somebody that's a casual fan of this type of stuff, at least right now in my life. So I liked it. I was kind of annoyed with different things about it, though. I felt like it was essentially a 2-hour movie version of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was him wondering if he's worthy enough to be Captain America for 2 hours when we've already done 8 episodes of that. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit as an overall kind of theme to this movie. I feel like at this point, Sam should know he's Captain America and be confident with it and just be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand that angle. The throwback to the 2008 Hulk stuff wasn't necessarily bad tie-in. I just was a little confused because I was trying to remember stuff from, what was that, 15 years, 16 years ago?
Yeah.
Which I can't really.
And I mean, that's not to interject, but that's a really, I am going to interject. So I am interjecting.
No, go ahead. Yeah. You're interjecting as we speak. Yeah.
That is a movie that's almost been forgotten.
Yep.
And basically the entirety of that cast is no longer either played in the MCU because the actor has been pushed out or dead. So that's a very obscure movie to do a sequel to, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. And I loved the Red Hulk stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that in detail at some point. But the last like 20 minutes of the movie I thought were great. I don't think the Red Hulk was played as the like core villain in the movie. I think it was more for just to have that kind of action spectacle and great effects, by the way. I didn't, there's some like really shitty green screen stuff and reshoots that are obvious in this movie, but the Red Hulk stuff I thought was top tier in terms of effects. But the Tim Blake Nelson character, what was his name? The leader, what's his name?
Samuel Stearns. Yes.
Samuel Stearns. Yeah. Like that. His look was just stupid. Like it looked like a Halloween costume to me. I just didn't really, I don't know. I love him as an actor.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a great job. Like, line deliveries and stuff. And he's a good actor, but his motivation seemed weird. Like I never bought, like he's basically the smartest man in the world, he used his intelligence to orchestrate a war. I mean, I don't know. It was a weird motivation for him to have. I mean, I get why he would want revenge against Harrison Ford, but I just didn't understand that really elaborate plan for revenge.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted.
Yeah, so I mean, aside from some awesome action, which mostly involved the Hulk or the Red Hulk, it was just kind of it's fine. You just walk out and you go, it's okay. I will tell you, my 11-year-old went with me, Logan.
Yeah.
And he fucking loved it. He ate it up. Nice. He thought it was great. Nice. He came home and was watching like different like clips from it and trailers and shit. So like he's always been a pretty big fan of Captain America anyway. But I did have to explain to him why it wasn't Chris Evans here. Like what the whole deal was because he didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier. So
can I just tell you, in my theater when the leader was revealed, I just heard this one kid go, "Ew." Like real loud. It was fucking hilarious. Kind of ruined the whole moment, but it was really funny.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's fine. I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
It's okay.
Anthony, opening thoughts overall. How'd you feel once the movie ended?
Yeah, the way I felt and the way things have evolved these past few days, my opinion on the movie has been maybe changed a little, but still somewhat similar to what I said on the initial Patreon instant reaction that was out. Plug for Patreon there. This movie, we discussed this movie a lot on this show leading up, and we knew, I think we, like, as a non-casual fan, as someone that follows this, I almost knew too much. So I knew, this movie had gone through a lot of reshoots, and there's 5 writers on the screenplay. The people that they originally had doing this were the people that did Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was not the best show that they've ever done. So it was already set up for failure. And then you have Marvel. Marvel's also going through this transition where they've realized that they've greenlit a ton of shit, or red lit in this case, a ton of shit, and the scripts were not really there. And now they're kind of trying to course correct on the fly with some of these movies that had release dates, had completed footage, and need to come out at a certain time. Like, we're really not going to see what Marvel truly has up their sleeve until we watch, in my opinion, Fantastic Four.
Or even Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts to a lesser extent, although I think Thunderbolts was greenlit and shot prior to this transition within Marvel where they're like, fuck, we're really screwing up everything.
Yeah.
So it's Thunderbolts maybe. I think your Daredevil and your Fantastic Four will be like the quote unquote rebirth of Marvel.
Yeah.
So all that to say is I came into this movie with very low expectations. I thought the trailers were very well cut, but I knew what was I knew what was happening behind the scenes, and I also saw a lot of the reviews coming out right even before where one of the lowest rated Captain America movies and all that shit. So coming in with low expectations, I'll say right off the bat, I was entertained by the movie. Like I didn't think it was terrible. Now it's clear this movie has been really stitched together. Like there's a lot of stuff that meanders or doesn't make sense or things drop. Like, for example, Sidewinder's character literally shows up, barely has any scenes with Anthony Mackie, and then just drops out before the third act. Like he's just not there anymore. And you can see like there's a lot of exposition dumps because they're trying to like weave together all this disparate footage to make sense of to make a plot that's somewhat coherent. I would say this movie is basically Temu Winter Soldier. Like it goes beat for beat, like Winter Soldier. You have this mystery in the beginning with a super soldier. You have the reveal of someone pulling the strings behind the lead. In Winter Soldier, it was the guy in the what was the fucking name? Arnim Zola.
Oh,
and this
yeah.
one, it's the leader.
Yeah.
You have a smart guy. You have like this unraveling of a mystery.
You got a president, or was there?
You got a president.
Yeah.
Well, you got an old guy. So you got Harrison Ford, and the old one you had Robert Redford. Yeah, so it's very beat for beat.
Yeah.
I think this movie really kind of loses itself in the middle. I think the action is okay. There is some really spotty CGI. There's some really bad green screen. The one I can think of right off the bat is Anthony Mackie, where he's talking to Red Hulk at the end, and it cuts to him, and he's like looking up, and you can clearly see it's green screen behind him
with the cherry blossoms.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. The Red Hulk I liked. That was good. I thought the initial like mystery of what's happening, I found that to be intriguing, and I found that to be in line with what Captain America films are. I think this film really suffers being a pseudo sequel to The Incredible Hulk, like I mentioned earlier with Gerald Morris. Why am I saying your full name? I can just call you Ferris.
My government name, bro.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I think it really suffers being that because in essence, it almost becomes a Thaddeus Ross redemption story.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a Thaddeus Ross daughter movie, like him and Betty. And I'm just
that whole thing was weird too.
Yeah, and I'm just not invested in that at all. Like I would have actually preferred this movie be more about not necessarily like if he deserves to be Cap, but more like they kind of like hint at a black Captain America and like being controlled by the government. Like how do you reconcile being this black man that's obviously has seen what happened to another black Captain America and how they mistreated him, but yet you're working with the government. Like there's something interesting there, and there's also something interesting of him being like, I never took the serum, like I can't really live up. Like I think there's some interesting points there, but this isn't really, I don't feel like we get a full hero's journey in this. I actually feel like the hero's journey, or like the journey we get, is more Thunderbolt Ross, which I think is really odd.
Yeah.
So I think this movie is just kind of it's definitely a mess. There's a lot of things going on. Is it entertaining? Yeah, in some points it is entertaining. But ultimately, I think, unfortunately, like what this movie is going to be most remembered for is it's just ultimately really forgettable, and a lot of people are going to use this movie as an opportunity to shit on Marvel and dance all over its grave. And I can't really, well, I don't think it's like that bad. Like I've seen people be like, this is just as bad as the Sony films. I'm like, are you kidding me? Those movies are horrible. This movie is like at least somewhat like passable.
Yeah.
It's just the bar has been raised on Marvel by like the general consumer. And like they're not going to deal with movies like this that have clearly been stitched together, had probably a terrible plot to start. And like you have really spotty CGI. And, at the end of the day, I mean, like in the action scenes, I liked the Red Hulk Falcon stuff or Captain America, but like, the rest of the action scenes are pretty forgettable. Some of it's like you can clearly see Anthony Mackie's not even in it. You also have like a weird, like Falcon is almost got, I've heard this on The Big Picture and I completely agree. Falcon's got like Robin vibes. Like what is he?
Oh.
He's just literally like, hey, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, I'm going to get hurt now. Like there's no arc for him at all. It's just so, and then you have like, when I go with Temu Winter Soldier, I mean, you have this lady that's a Black Widow. She's kind of Black Widow, but she's not really that interesting. So it's just not that memorable, I think. And it's ultimately kind of unfortunate that this was the first Captain America movie for Anthony Mackie, because I actually think he's all right. I like him.
Yeah.
I liked his the best scenes, in my opinion, are him and Harrison Ford interacting. The movie makes a ton of weird choices with what the plot is and where they're going. And it's super, I mean, for those that know that it was rewritten, and reshot, you can see those clear stitches in the movie. So, yeah.
Yeah.
My long-winded answer of saying it's all right, but ultimately kind of disappointing.
I have details about, there's like another movie they made, tons of stuff left on the cutting.
I'm very curious what that other movie was.
So I have some notes about that, but I'm same with you guys, right? Honestly, after hearing all the behind the scenes and the reshoots and the test screenings went well, I didn't think it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. I also went in with lowered expectations. I was mildly entertained, but it is, solidly average, like mediocre. The first 30, 40 minutes, I was like, this is all right. It's going pretty good. The middle of it, Anthony, you're right, gets convoluted and confusing. And then I fucking loved everything with the Red Hulk, from when he transforms to the end. I had a big smile on my face. Imagine had they never shown that in the trailer, it would have been fucking amazing. What an amazing reveal. But the problem was, the story, the writing lets them down. The plot really doesn't have like a narrative drive. It's just like one thing happens after another. And I'm just waiting for Red Hulk to show up most of the movie, because it's going to end that way, and it kind of takes the fucking wind out of it.
Yeah.
I thought Harrison Ford was also very good. It was a little hard to connect that this was the same Ross, and some of his conflict seemed a little forced. And I also think it was weird, that line in the trailer where he goes, "You're not Steve Rogers," and then Sam says, "You're right, I'm not." He does not say, they don't have that in the movie. He does not say, "You're right, I'm not." He just gets talked down to and then walks away. It's kind of weird. But it's not really Captain America movie, like you guys said. It's more about like General Ross, which was very strange that it happened that way. But in the post-credit scene we'll get to is very vague. But at the end of the day, I completely agree. Not a hit, not a miss. It's like right in the middle. It's not great. It's not it's a little bit of a mess. But it's like, okay to good. And
I would lean like okay. Like I would almost lean like more okay. And like, if you made an argument that this was one of the worst Marvel movies, I'd be like, I don't necessarily agree, but I can see where you're going with that.
Sure. Yeah. But it does beg the question about Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson's storyline. Like, you both guys kind of said different things. Gerald, on the one hand, you're right. He went through, can I be the Black Captain America? Will the world country accept this? And on the other hand, shouldn't we be done with that? And do we still? I felt like it could have used a little more of that in the movie, but we did go through that. So, but what they do is it's entirely safe and timid, and they kind of leave any kind of political edginess out of the whole thing.
But didn't you feel like, I mean, maybe I'm just misremembering too, because like I said, I didn't really like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but from what I remember, wasn't this a lot of the plot of that show though? Like it was thematically at least, right?
No, it was. I think the thing is though, with this, first off, I didn't like that show either, so I didn't like that arc. So I'm almost like, let's do that again, because I didn't like the way that was handled. But secondly, I think they do that somewhat again in the movie because of the fact they're going, well, there's no chance everyone watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so we got to
drop in for people that didn't see it.
we got to do the Cliff Notes version of this, because that's why throughout the movie there's so much of this like exposition dump.
Yeah, because
they're pulling from some of the worst shit they've ever put out, like Incredible Hulk,
yes,
Eternals,
so crazy,
and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So they're like trying to like stitch together these movies and TV shows that weren't that good, people have forgotten, but there's threads that have been left unsewn or threaded. So they're trying to do that in this movie, and because of that, you get a lot of those, like a lot of just people explaining what's going on, and a lot of like, I don't know, just very weird choices, and like things where characters are speaking in ways where they'd never speak like that. Yes. Or you have like scenes where Harrison Ford is in a war room with like top people, and Cap walks in to talk to him, and Harrison Ford's like, "You can't be here, everyone get out." It's like, that's not how any of this would go. Like what is it kind of insults your intelligence a lot in a lot of those.
I also didn't know the president gets to go like on a battleship and actually command orders and press buttons when you're firing missiles and shit. That seemed kind of weird. Where's all his people? Here's the biggest question. Who's the fucking vice president? Because that person is now in charge. We don't know who that is. Right. Will that be brought up in Thunderbolts? Hopefully. No. But I did look. On one hand, I enjoyed the connections. What have you been crying about? What about this fucking giant celestial sticking out of the earth? that's addressed. And we have the introduction of adamantium as they slowly build to the X-Men. And then you have the leader coming back also. But I also felt like it was just kind of fan servicey, and it didn't really. I mean, I guess it is important.
So you guys, you two know that Endgame. Pardon the pun. I don't mean to have a pun there, but so you guys know what the goal of this is, like what it's going to connect to with the X-Men and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
okay, all right.
Yeah, you want to, or I'll
No, I just didn't know. I just didn't know if Marvel had kind of laid that out yet or not.
So they're building towards. They're kind of running parallel tracks here. So they're building towards Secret Wars and Doomsday and Secret Wars, which revolve around a plot of multiversal threats, right? So that's why at the end, spoiler, the leader says there's a 67, whatever the probability says, that the others will come, meaning other heroes from other worlds. So they're building towards that. Yeah, variants. But then they're also, they just acquired the X-Men maybe a few years ago. So they've been peppering in these movies, almost kind of ham-fisted, not very subtle at all.
Yeah.
That the X-Men are here and we have them and they're coming, right? So like the end of Eternals, they have Beast in there. In Miss Marvel, they reveal that Kamala Khan is a mutant.
Yeah.
So this movie, they're like adamantium is part of this. So they're running these two things at the same time. I think the problem here is they don't have the same kind of momentum that they did from 2008 to 2019.
Yeah.
So while they're throwing these in and people are like, oh, look at that, the movies aren't as good. So it's not as exciting when you're trying to build up to something, but you're watching stuff that is just, kind of mediocre.
They're really slow rolling the X-Men thing. So adamantium is the metal that covers Wolverine's bones and what his claws are made out of. And there's a great bit in the comics, and maybe they'll do this in a movie where Magneto literally, who can control magnetism, pulls all the adamantium out of Logan, who has a healing power, and it's just horrific. And I want to see that on the screen.
Well, that happens in X-Men 97.
Oh, it did. Yes, it did happen in the show too. And you saw that, and it was crazy. Will they do that live action? But yeah, so they're on the one hand, I love that we're like it's grounded. We're back into like the main MCU storyline, even though we're in this multiverse saga. And they're finally starting to put little Easter egg connections, which is what I wanted. But then I felt like it was just kind of a little half-assed. But now adamantium is in the world along with vibranium.
When they're doing that stuff, Gerald, are you like, as a more casual fan, are you like, hey, that's intriguing, what does that mean? And are you looking it up? Or are you like, I don't know what the hell that went? Or are you even like picking up on it at all?
I mean, being a fan of the X-Men, I knew that it was obviously connected to Wolverine and the adamantium and claws and stuff. So I knew there was probably a connection, but it didn't intrigue me enough to where I had to like go research it, just probably because the movie kind of fell somewhat flat for me. So I figured, when I see a new X-Men movie, I'm going to check it out, and then there'll probably be connections to this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of why I asked you guys, because I didn't know if Marvel had kind of laid out like this is where we're heading, or if we're just supposed to know if we know the X-Men, like, oh, okay, well, here come, we're obviously going to be a part of the story.
Yeah, I think we're still good 5-6 years away from any kind of actual X-Men.
Nah, I disagree. I think they're going to do X-Men sooner.
Oh yeah, next phase. Okay.
I didn't understand. As a casual fan, I didn't understand the hidden scene. I mean, you guys just kind of explained it.
The post-credit
scene. Yeah.
Yes, when he's talking about the others, can you protect the planet? That is kind of hinting at Doomsday Secret Wars and variants and all that shit. So let's talk about the action scenes. I thought there was 2 really decent action scenes and 2 just okay action scenes. I actually like the scene over the Indian Ocean with the jets at the Celestial Island. That and the Hulk scene, I thought were really good. The opening hand-to-hand fighting scene in Mexico, there was a lot of editing, and it seemed a little rough.
Yeah, any of the close hand combat was a fucking mess. I mean, it was like, I think Tony mentioned earlier, you can tell the actors aren't even in the shot, and when Esposito's in the scenes, like, I think all of his scenes were reshoots, right? So I don't think he was ever actually on.
He was never that character, and he was never in the original film. They literally hired him on after test screenings and shot completely new stuff with him.
That
And you can
scene,
tell.
yeah, that scene where he's like in the car shootout where he just comes out of nowhere and like, where are we? Why is he there driving? And then they just have a shootout and a battle. It's like, what is happening? Why are they there?
Yeah, like why did he do that? Yeah, what's going on? Yeah.
I did like the assassination scene, which we kind of saw in the trailers. I thought that sequence was okay. I didn't see the other shooters. You know, that was kind of fun, and you get to see Ruth, the Secret Service agent. She's a little badass, but she's a tiny woman to be the head of security. She's former Black Widow.
Yeah, it was a strange casting choice. I was thinking at the time, I'm like, that what? I'm supposed to buy that, but I mean, you know, I guess if you have the training, it doesn't matter what your stature is. But
yeah,
I also didn't like. I was going to ask y'all's opinion because you're obviously closer to the material, but I also didn't like Isaiah coming back to essentially like take the fall again, like because we saw that in the show too, right? Or am I misremembering that?
Well, in the show, he was locked up after being kept serving his country forever, and then
Right, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah, so this one they bring him in to honor him or whatever, or have him part of the White House thing, and then he mind control flips. So that doesn't happen in the show. I didn't mind that. I thought it was fine. Like I kind of liked like Sam's journey to help him. It's just Sam then gets like so caught up in some other thing that like that part of the plot gets pushed into the background for a bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
On the action front, I agree with both of you. The Eternals, or not the Eternals, the Celestial scene I thought was all right. I liked the Red Hulk stuff for the most part, but the hand-to-hand combat was not great. I wouldn't say it was embarrassing like Iron Fist bad, but
Right.
I didn't feel as engaged. Like if you compare that to
Winter
that
Soldier
opening-
or even
exactly the
Yeah.
Winter Soldier on
Yeah.
the ship, or him fighting Cap fighting Winter Soldier in the middle of the street, like that's so dynamic and awesome.
Yeah.
And this just, the bar has been set, and it was not met for the most part in this movie in terms of action.
I mean, and that's the directing. The directing is not great. It's all right. It's part of the problem, along with the writing. I thought Carl Lumley. I love this character. I wanted to see more of him. I think they changed a lot of his story, and that's why he gets short shrifted again. But man, I felt for him. But he was like, I can't go back there because he was the Captain America after Steve Rogers was like in the ice, and then it was him for a while. It would have been great. And when we get to stuff they cut out, I feel like there was a different plan. But I want to see more. I love that he was training Danny Ramirez. We get a great cameo. We didn't even mention this from Bucky Barnes, one Sebastian Stan. And this actually surprised me. I did not know he was going to be in the movie.
So I actually disagree. I don't think that's a great cameo at all. I don't understand why he's even in the movie.
He is kind of forced in there.
It's kind of like, I'd love to hear Gerald's thoughts, but like I feel like it just is like, oh, there's Winter Soldier.
They need something.
He just shows up and then he's gone, and it's just like,
Okay.
well, where's he been?
It is also weird because they mention he's running for Congress. I was like, what the fuck? They better address this in Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I wonder if it was set up for that too, because I did think that was weird too. I'm like, he's on the campaign trail. This like there was no setup for any of that shit for him being there.
In there.
So to answer Tony's question, it was kind of like an eye roll situation. I mean, I love Sebastian Stan and I love the Winter Soldier, so it's cool. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, he's literally just here for fan service, so. It had no bearing on the plot. It wasn't really emotional. I guess it was supposed to be for them, in their past or whatever, but it didn't hit with me like that. I knew there was going to be some kind of weird cameo in this thing. I thought it might be in the end credit scene, but it was just it just fell flat for me. It was like,
it surprised me. I was like, oh, I didn't know he was going to be in this movie. And that's all it does really is.
That's all it is.
Surprise you. You're like, oh. That was definitely added afterwards.
Did you guys think that there was a chance Chris Evans would show up in this? Because I was worried about that too. I was like, is he going to be in this from like in the future Captain America? Or
in this tie, is he? He's just like an old man in that.
I guess
somewhere.
Yeah, he might be just an old man. It's really unclear where he's at, if he's just an old man. But yeah, I would. I mean, I think that would have been the wrong move too, right? You want to have this be his own movie and then to have Cap. But I mean, I feel like this movie, because of the reviews, and we'll see how much money it makes, I feel like they're going to get desperate and just be like, hey, Chris, come on back and do another Cap movie.
I feel really bad for Anthony Mackie because both of his Captain America projects were fucked by things kind of out of his control. The Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that was during COVID, and they had to push back and change things.
They not only had to push back, they had to rewrite a thread about the world disease. But I also think both of these movies, I know you're going to get into but we know about the behind the scenes for this movie, so I don't know that we need to get into it. But I also feel like both of these movies just had very the bones of a good script, the bones of something like thought provoking and intriguing, but very and I don't normally say this type of stuff, but very Disneyfied, where it's just we're just going to do enough to make you go, hey, they're trying to really have a deeper conversation about what it means to be a black hero in the U.S. at this time, but we're not really going there.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about this relationship that abusive fathers have with workaholic fathers have with their daughters, but we're not really going there. By the way, side note, I'm still not convinced Liv Tyler was actually in the movie.
I didn't think she. So they play. I was like, I know she's supposed to be in this. You hear her voice. I bet she don't show up. And then at the very end, we'll get into. She shows up at the raft, and I'm like, you think it was her?
What I'm saying, I don't think that was her.
You don't think? Well, there was bars in front of her, so
exactly.
I don't know.
There were bars in front of her.
Yeah.
It looks like she's exactly the same age she was 17 years ago. I mean, the way it's shot makes you
weird.
Do a side eye where you're like, I don't think she's actually there.
There's a lot of that in this movie. And then let's talk about the leader's plan, because he's supposed to be smart, but the Cap fucking derails his plans, and then pills with gamma radiation. Sure, I guess.
So
why would the president fucking trust him?
Let's unpack his plan real quick. So Thaddeus Ross captures the leader after the end of the Incredible Hulk. His brain was morphed by the gamma radiation, but it made him smarter. And I think he says they pump him with more of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So he keeps Thaddeus Ross, or he keeps leader locked in a hole as basically his think tank to come up with the best ways to take advantage, win things, right?
Yep.
And then he also is dying, so he relies on leader to help give him a cure, and the leader does this by giving him pills that also have gamma that will turn him eventually into the Hulk, because he wants to one day turn him into the Red Hulk to embarrass him enough to basically break his name, right? Like, that's the plot.
Right.
And then he also wants to manipulate him while he's the president so that he causes a world war, right? That's another part of it, right?
Yep.
Right? So does that all track, Gerald?
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, when you think about it, there's so many holes in this, right? Like,
oh my God, yes.
How would he have known that he would have manipulated things in Thaddeus' favor to get him to a point where he would have became the president?
Yeah, he got him president. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
How did he know that, like, when the timing of when the gamma would
did he activate
turn him into the Hulk
or something? I don't understand.
Well, he does. He does kind of activate it, right?
Yeah.
How does he have the tools to come up with mind control technology to basically mind control anybody that he wants with songs?
Yeah.
I guess this all can be explained with
he's the smartest man.
He's the smartest man in the world.
But then how did he not see fucking Captain America fucking up his plans?
Right. That's where it all falls apart, is then how does Anthony Mackie outsmart him?
Yeah, he's not really
or how does Anthony Mackie it doesn't really even that's another hole. So the end, right? So the whole thing here is he manipulates Ross with the medication and his words to turn him into the Red Hulk, because he wants to basically take down his career and turn him into a monster. And the only way that Red Hulk can subdue himself is to think about his daughter, which Anthony Mackie brings up.
Yeah.
But I thought and the plot leads to this, and I thought this would have been like a nicer arc, is I thought the way he would have turned into the Red Hulk, or way he would have turned back into Thaddeus Ross, wasn't a speech from Anthony Mackie about his daughter. It would have been fucking his daughter showing up.
Oh my God, yes. Here's Betty. And then
because then
yeah.
If you want to really do a full tie-in to Incredible Hulk, the way that, if you remember from the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, is choking out the Abomination with this chain, and he's got to kill him.
Right.
And Betty goes, "Stop!"
Yeah.
And that sound of hearing Betty, wow, I don't know if that sounded like Betty at all.
Just
the
like
sound of Betty forces the Hulk to become Bruce Banner again. So it would have come full circle where now the Red Hulk is going on this rampage. You bring back Betty. She says something, and he's like, "Oh my God, Betty!" And I'd be turned back into
that would have been great.
Red Hulk.
That would have been great.
That's not what they do, because I don't think they had Liv Tyler actually
at all.
She wasn't there. Yeah.
So
they couldn't shoot her. But what are your thoughts? Just the quick way I rewrote some of that ending.
I mean, that sounds better to me, honestly. I mean, it was a little cliche with the like speech about family and daughter, and then
right.
you know, and this is this angry red beast, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, you know, like you kind of hit me in the heartstrings. Let me turn back into Harrison Ford.
And it was too duplicative of the. Remember Gerald at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier? We end with like this weird speech from Aunt Sam, where he's like, "You got to do better, world leaders," and it's like, why are we doing this again? Where he's like grandstanding and giving speeches to end things.
Listen, the question was, how does a person with no superpower serum and vibranium wings going to defeat a Hulk? He almost gets his head smashed. Love saves the day, of course.
Right.
That's the only way. So just to
his like defining characteristics are that he has this empathy and compassion for people.
Yeah, okay. Who? Sam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just go through the ending real quick. See where we leave off after Ross calms down and he's an old naked Harrison Ford. That was awkward.
You get to see her. Yeah, you get to see shirtless Harrison Ford at 80.
Oh my God,
800 years old.
He is old. Then I didn't need to see that.
Well, before you get into recapping the ending, someone brought this up.
Yeah.
I like Harrison Ford, but do you guys feel like he was almost too old to play this? Because he looks older than William Hurt.
He does. That's why I couldn't fully connect. This is the same guy.
Because he's trying to give off the Air Force One vibe.
Yes, get off my plane.
But he's not that. He's so old. Like, he's old. Like, he's fucking visibly old.
Yeah, he's getting up there. I will say in his performance, though, I was surprised. Like, I thought he did really well, like acting. I mean,
he was bringing energy.
I would have expected him to kind of phone it in here on the. To be honest,
yeah, sometimes he does.
But I thought he did really well. We were already kind of talking about this where the script comes up short, but I mean, what he had to work with, I thought this was a pretty good Harrison Ford performance, honestly.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
I heard that as a talking point, so I wanted to bring that up. But I did find him still interesting and fun to watch on the screen.
No, yeah, he's a standout. You know, Mackie's a standout. I like Carl Lumley stood out for me from the performances. But how we end is Isaiah is exonerated and released from prison thanks to Sam. The treaty that Ross was trying to get together is signed. The world will share the adamantium from Celestial Island.
Why is there only Japan,
There's
India,
only like France
and
like,
U.S.?
Yeah, it's like 4 nations.
Are there 4 countries?
They're just hoarding it. Yeah, I don't know where the rest of the world is. Where's Wakanda? Well, they have vibranium.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Easier to get than vibranium now, this miracle substance, kind of. Like, it's not in a country you can't get to, and you can just go and pluck it. Ross is being held on the raft.
Right.
And I do love that conversation that when Sam visits him, is you have a president of the United States like taking accountability for something, for his actions, and saying and understanding and respecting, you know, what his role is. So that was pretty good. I don't know.
When do you think that was written?
Oh, okay. I'll get into. I do think they thought Trump was going to lose, basically, when they were writing this movie, and probably had to change some shit, right?
Okay.
And then that's when Betty visits him at that visit, and maybe she's there, maybe she's not.
I don't think she's there.
And then Sam visits Falcon in the hospital, and in the beginning, the president did ask him to restart the Avengers, and then Isaiah shot at him, and the president's like, "No, I don't need you anymore." But he says he will be restarting the Avengers. and what's Joaquin Torres there to be the Falcon. And then we get the post-credit scene, which you notice Sam's arm no longer in a sling, so this must be sometime later. And Samuel Stern gives you the vague, what about the others? What do you about when you have to protect this place from the others?
Right.
So that's where we are. Couple of questions. Remember Secret Invasion? Nobody wants to remember that show. But there was a president, and at the end of that show, the president announced it was an open season on anybody that people think are aliens. Remember that shit?
Right.
What happened to that?
Yep.
What happened to that president?
Well, he's gone.
Was he gone?
Yeah. Harrison
Okay.
Ross is now president.
Oh, here's the question I had. The Red Hulk only has 9 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
But I actually thought this was the perfect amount of Red Hulk, and it was used impactfully, and I wasn't mad at the small screen time.
Yeah, I think even as a greater extension of that, I kind of I appreciated that this was under 2 hours. Like they could have really bloated this thing out even more, especially with all the reshoots and everything. So I thought that Red Hulk sequence at the end was super impactful too as a viewer, as a casual viewer, because I knew it was coming. It's obviously on all the marketing materials and whatever. And if you're a fan of the Incredible Hulk, you know, you want to see that. So I thought it was cool that it was kind of the climax of the film. And they teased it. Remember on the ship, they kind of teased that he was going to change in that one scene.
He starts to change a little bit, yeah.
And then they pulled back, and then you're like, okay, I'll wait a few more minutes, you know. So I thought they did a nice build up to that climax with the Red Hulk.
I agree. I think the Red Hulk is an appropriate foe for him to battle at the end, where it's like how the hell is Sam Wilson going to get around beating this guy? And I don't like the way he gets around beating him, as I discussed, but it is an intriguing thing to be like, how is this going to happen? I think the failure with that is just the marketing, right? So the marketing just shoved they didn't know what to do and how to market it. So they said the best way to market this is to just reveal that Red Hulk is in this movie in all the posters and all the trailers.
I really wish they didn't. They helped.
Yeah. So that creates this expectation that Red Hulk is in the movie more often, more prevalently than he is, and he's not. And not only that, he's in the third act. So now you're just waiting for this thing to happen.
Yep.
And then you wait till the third act. So I think that ultimately the marketing failed in terms of building up anticipation. Like it built up anticipation, but it built it up in a way where now people are ultimately left disappointed because there wasn't enough Red Hulk, or the fact that it even just spoils the fact that when he gets revealed, it's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like there's not much else in this movie past that.
Yeah. You're just waiting for it, and it is fun, but it would have been nice not to know it. Okay. So go ahead.
I just wanted to ask one thing of you two real quick. So I didn't know if you were going to go over this or not, but you said this is the 35th movie, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Isn't this the first one that didn't have that like Marvel opening?
Yes. The opening logo.
Why do you think?
I don't know why.
Do you think that was significant, or why didn't they have it?
So the opening they show is more like thematic to like this kind of 70s espionage thriller kind of movie that they wanted it to be, but I don't know what that means. And you're right. It was a different Marvel logo.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, no, they didn't. You know, when the word scrolls by the words and you see the clips in the side of the letters on the inside, it was just like black and white Marvel Studios kind of. Yeah. I don't know. That I thought that was very interesting, but I don't know why.
I don't either.
Okay, so here's some of the things that were cut or changed. There is literally another whole movie that was made. There's this report going around about this guy who worked on the set, and he said there were so many things we shot that got cut, and also mentions how grumpy Harrison Ford was during this movie. But he's always grumpy, apparently, in every movie. It's a little hard to work with. Let's start with the character of Ruth Bat Seraph Shirahaz. Originally, this character was supposed to be Sabra. In the comics, Sabra is a mutant with powers who is also an Israeli Mossad agent. Okay. So when they announced that this character was going to be in the movie, pro-Palestinian people were very mad. Then they said, oh no, she's not going to be Israeli Mossad. We're going to change it. And then the Israelis were mad. So this was a no-win situation either way. So they end up making her an Israeli former Black Widow. Somebody's going to be mad still. Also, her and Isaiah Bradley were possibly supposed to suit up and help Sam fight in certain scenes. There is an international poster with her in a suit, and there's been some other reference to that.
Do we know, Imran? I know you're going through scenes. Do we have any idea of what the original plot was?
I just saw some articles coming out of kind of original MCU leak plot details. You can kind of piece together from these cuts what the original plot was. I think it was still about adamantium and the canister, but I think it was more comic booky, and that's what they changed. Here's another thing that was supposed to happen. Ross was originally supposed to die. They shot a funeral scene with Betty Ross. The leader's look was changed. Originally, it was comic accurate with the big, tall head and giant forehead. Tim Blake Nelson actually said he reshot all his scenes. And they gave him that crazy, weird, bumpy head, which, I don't know.
It looked weird.
Yeah.
It looked
kind of cheap.
What did you say? It looked like a Halloween costume?
Yeah, it looked cheap, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, I know the leader is a weird looking character, but in a Captain America film, it was really strange. I really couldn't. It just felt like it was out of place. Like he felt like he was in he felt like he was in a spoof movie.
Oh, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Look, that was bad. I did not like it. I did not.
Yeah,
like it.
I mean, even to be a little more forgiving, but still kind of knock it. It looked like maybe he was in like a TV show.
Yeah.
Television, like, you know what I mean? With the budget was a lot lower or whatever. Yeah.
Well, on that note too, like there's some scenes in here that look to me TV quality. Like
a little bit. Yeah.
When they're fighting the Celestials and you keep cutting back to Harrison Ford on the ship.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that looks like a TV set with the red room and all that. Like that stuff. This is Marvel. Like you have millions of dollars. Like you could probably shoot on a real ship to be like in a fucking room, like a control room the entire time. I think it just was a very odd, like you could see the seams of this movie, like where I wouldn't be surprised if that was all reshot.
Steven Seagal shot on a real ship. Come on, fucking Marvel.
Yeah,
what are you
dude.
doing? More changes. Seth Rollins, pro wrestler, and Rosa Salazar were originally cast as Serpent Society members. So we briefly see a group called the Serpents. It sounds like all the Serpent Society in the comics is a superpowered villain team. And it sounds like all that scenes were cut and replaced with the Giancarlo Esposito sidewinder scenes.
They were more snake type, right?
So, because Rosa Salazar was playing Diamondback, and she had bright pink hair. There is a set photo of her with bright pink hair. There's McDonald's Happy Meal toys of this character with bright pink hair from this movie. So they changed all of that. This one,
they downplayed it to make it more of a name of a gang,
right? Of like a terrorist group.
Yeah, exactly.
This one's crazy. Amadeus Cho was supposed to be in this movie. Teenage Amadeus Cho that becomes Hulk. He would have been played by Logan Kim, who's in Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's originally Sam would visit Cho at Stark Industries to learn about the pills. And then there was a different post-credit scene that was supposed to have Stearns allude that he turned Amadeus Cho into a Hulk as well. Maybe trying to set up like a World War Hulk or something. But all that was removed. And they had a bunch of different post-credit scenes where Red Hulk visits Betty after they presume he's dead, but he's not. He visits Betty. And so a lot of things were changed, chopped together. And I think you can kind of see I wonder how bad that version was.
Let me ask you this while we're on this before we get into ratings and reviews. And I won't actually ask Gerald and Imran, you can chime in after, but from 2008 to 2019, were you following all the Marvel movies?
Following might be generous
Not
term.
following, but were you watching them?
Yeah. I was seeing pretty much all of them. Yeah. I
mean, that run, especially when you get into Phase 3 when they did Spider-Man and Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok and leading up to Infinity War, like it was just banger after banger after banger in terms of good, like very well reviewed movies, very entertaining, making tons of money, building towards something. That, like Doomsday, I think is coming out next year, which is the next big Avengers film.
Yeah.
They're almost at this point. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine was fun. It was a great time. This movie, obviously not to that level at all in terms of entertainment or anything like that. Like, they're clearly not on that same trajectory right now. There is not the hype that they had. Do you think, if let's say, do you think with two movies, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and whatever else is supposed to come out before Doomsday, like, do you think they can recapture that magic they had? Or is that like, hey, that was a moment in time where Marvel was doing something that they've never done before, or no one's ever done before, where they've built this like interconnected universe where every movie built on the next movie and built on another movie that then culminated in this event where everyone from all the movies comes together, and they're trying to recreate that again. But do you think it's even possible at this point to recreate that kind of energy in terms of like cultural zeitgeist?
I mean, my initial response is no, just because, I mean, even based on my own kind of reflection on what's happened since 2019, like, I feel like, and I mean, I could be in a vacuum or whatever. It could just be me and, the select people I talk to in my circle. But I just think that they've lost us at this point. You know what I mean? Like, we're not on board anymore. Now you have like super fans, like, maybe you include yourselves in that. And then you have like people that, still read the comics weekly, and like, they're always going to be there. It's always going to make millions of dollars. And like, I get it, but I'm just not invested. And I am excited for certain projects. Like, I think Fantastic Four looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of WandaVision a little bit, honestly.
It's the same director.
Yeah. So I am excited for it, but I'm not excited for it so that I can use it to like see 15 more movies. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to like see that movie. I'm excited for that film. So to answer your question, I would say I think that is no longer, or that should no longer be their goal. Right. Their goal should be to really kind of shift their mentality a little bit to like, just make good movies.
Yeah.
Like, just a 2-hour film or 2.5 hours, like, just make that good. And if that's a really good screenplay, really good actors doing great performances, a really good story, great action set pieces, fight choreography, and the 2 hours is like a fucking banger movie that, makes $1 billion and everybody loved it. And then you can throw that little cliffhanger at the end, right. And like, okay, I love this movie. That was awesome. I can't wait to see what that cliffhanger
which is
do,
what Iron Man was, which is how they started.
Yeah. Just focus on that one project as opposed to like looking 20 projects down the road. And I know that's easier said than done because they're trying to have continuity and all that stuff. But I feel like if they would devote all of their attention into making like one successful, '08 Iron Man again, and like, if that hits, okay, now we're good. Now let's do the next one. What's next? And then you keep making bangers, and people keep going to see them and they're impressed by what they see, as opposed to making a episodic, like, this only works if this,
I mean, they're kind of chapters, right? All these 35 movies, but the last, 5 have just been all over. To your point, Anthony, I don't think there's enough time, unless Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are absolute bangers. There's no time to build up a thing to Avengers Doomsday like they did the first time. Right. You can't do that again because you did it. So I agree with Gerald. They got to pivot. And what's different? How about you just make one good movie at a time?
Right.
Maybe.
I mean, that's what I'm not a studio head, but I mean, that's what I don't know why somebody's not stepping back going, all right, here we go. This is a clean slate. I'm putting all my people on this, all my best screenwriters, like whatever. And I want you to come up with the best version of blank, whatever it is. And then if that hits and fans and casual viewers alike rally around that as something special, then you build off of that for the next one, not for the next 20 of them, just for the next one. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, have a more minimal vision for what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm also in the same boat where I just don't think the hype that I had for even like when you talk about Avengers, the original Avengers, or even Age of Ultron, where going into those movies, like these are events. This feels amazing. Like I'm excited. I don't have that same energy for the next Doomsday. Not to say I won't be excited, because I probably will be, but I just don't feel like the same momentum. I think looking back on it too, I think it's easy to say this now. And I was one of those that was super pumped when stuff was getting on Disney Plus and all that stuff. But I think at some point, building a universe where everything builds on the next movie, I think that just eventually, like, I think this was inevitable. Like, if you were going to keep doing this, eventually when you're building a house on, very, like, you keep building, like, adding stories to a house where the foundation was built with material from 2008 and it's like rotting and shit. Like, eventually that stuff is just, it's gonna fall apart. And there's not, I mean, you see this even in the comics. Like, you try to make sense of all those stories and try to mold them into a like event comic, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, none of this. So like, Ruggs will talk about, like, it needs to be more about the comics and things like that, and he's not here to defend himself, so I'm sure I'll hear about it later. But I don't think that's the case. Like, I don't think it needs to be more about the comics, because the comics are a house of cards too. So like, this stuff, I think it's just the fact that they expanded too quickly after Endgame and went with the TV shows and the movies and they thought the answer was, let's throw more out there. And in hindsight, like, it should have been, let's actually pull back and think about what, like Gerald said, where it's just like, let's release one good thing at a time and rebuild this thing, instead of capitalizing on that Endgame buzz and being like, okay, we have carte blanche to do whatever we want. Because when you do that and you have all these different things going out, it gets built on, I mean, first off, it's inefficient. Like, the company itself can't release 9 properties a year and have everything be top quality, because Kevin Feige spread too thin. But then furthermore, like, all these threads now that you have out there inevitably are supposed to weave back to Avengers, but there's so many threads out at this point that it's just hard to make sense of anything. And you're seeing that even in this film, where they're trying to tie everything back together, and then you have casual fans and even people like me being like, Incredible Hulk, we're pulling from that, like, what's going on?
Right.
So that's my long-winded way of saying, my long-winded way of saying maybe this was all inevitable at some point if they were going to keep doing this.
Look, like you said in the beginning, Anthony, we are in the adjustment period, right? Between the Chapek and the Iger. So despite the fact that this is a mediocre movie, my other concern is the next 2 movies, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, directed by Jake Schreier, Matt Shackman. Those are both TV director guys. So that's a little concerning, but I still have hope that they will right the ship. We just got to get through.
I have one thought on that. Actually. So I've started off this review being like, hey, it's all right, and then kind of went into the negative. I did write down after the movie, I went, this might seem crazy, but I think Marvel might be headed in the right direction.
Whoa.
And the reason I said that was, I think it's clear to me, even with these reshoots, that they've realized that they've got to turn things around. And while I don't know that it necessarily worked for this movie, I do get the sense with all the reshoots and the way they've reworked Daredevil and the way you look at like Fantastic Four, like that looks completely different than anything I've seen in a while for Marvel. I do think that they've recognized, like, the first step to admitting there's an issue is admitting there's a problem. And I think they've admitted that and like are trying to address that stuff. It's just like this movie was caught in that transition.
Absolutely. It's still, we got to get through this, and we're going to see what happens. All right, though, that's a good place to get our ratings. Gerald, give me a number out of 10, and you don't have to rank it. Or you can kind of put it in a tier. There's 35 fucking movies. It's hard to rank these at this point.
And plus I haven't seen them all. But I mean, it's probably, I don't know if I can remember them all vividly, but it's probably towards the bottom of like the Captain America movies for sure.
For sure.
I do think it's a little bit better than the series Falcon and Winter Soldier, at least in terms of like my enjoyment of it.
Okay.
But it was basically the same too, though. So I don't know. I just feel like I enjoyed it more because it was 2 hours in and out as opposed to 8 episodes or whatever. But it's right down the middle for me. I would probably give it like a 5 out of 10. Okay. Like, I really like the Red Hulk stuff. I love Isaiah as a character. I hate that he kind of got cast as the victim again, all over again in this movie. But all in all, it's okay. I would say go for the Red Hulk stuff, but kind of like what Tony said, just be ready to wait an hour and 40 minutes before you see it. But yeah, it's probably a 5 out of 10 for me.
5 out of 10. Look, Red Hulk's still in play. Isaiah still in play. They can use them. We might see them somewhere. Anthony,
Yeah.
Give me a number. Where you can put it?
I'm not copying Gerald, but I also had it as a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
It's just a movie.
Yeah.
It's it's a
Definitely is a movie.
It's a movie. And it's not very memorable. As far as where I have it ranked, I do have a list on Letterboxd. I have it currently as number 28 out of 35.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
The movies that, like, just to give you what those movies are that are around it. So in front of it's Eternals at 27. And then the movies behind it I have are Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Black Widow, The Marvels, Thor the Dark World, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Captain Marvel. So it's in that range.
How does this fare compared to like Thor Love and Thunder and Quantumania for you?
So Thor Love and Thunder I don't hate as much, so I have it at 18.
Wow.
Quantumania I don't hate as much as the people do, but I have it at 25. So it's in that range.
Yeah. Okay. What was your number?
5.
You said 5.
Do you think, well, before we get into your thoughts and run, just to ask Gerald that question, have you seen like Thor Love and Thunder and Ant-Man Quantumania?
I have.
Better or worse?
Extremely. This is better. I extremely Quantumania I disliked. I didn't know what the hell was going on in that movie.
You like the stretchy face on fucking that thing? Yeah.
Oh my
MODOK.
god.
MODOK? Yeah. You like the stretchy face MODOK?
Yeah, that shit was weird. So Love and Thunder I didn't hate as much as I hated Quantumania. It would probably be right in line with Love and Thunder for me. This one,
Okay.
I mean.
All right.
Yeah, kind of playing in that same sandbox though.
All right.
Yeah. So, like I said, I love the Hulk. I love we're back in the MCU storyline, but there's just too many things going on. Like Ruth Sidewinder, almost unnecessary characters, too many plot lines, very disjointed. But man, I love the Red Hulk. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Whoa.
Is what just in that
Okay,
just
wow.
yeah for the Red Hulk stuff because
Imran is a notoriously high grader.
yes,
of
I'm
Hulk
generous because that Red Hulk stuff left me smiling and we saw some other things. But I would put it kind of ranking wise about where you guys headed. Like it's on par maybe with Thor Love and Thunder. I do think I like it better than Ant-Man Quantumania. But it is the worst Captain America movie.
Oh, by far.
Marvelous,
I mean, that's
so-
not even close.
Yeah.
It's the worst by far.
So it's like top of the bottom tier, I guess. But coming in at just average and maybe slightly forgettable. But I don't know. Fun time if you're into Marvel.